Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. News that is coming from the IPOA is that there seems to be some kind of blame game. Yesterday, the Standard shared a story about the people who grilled, or let's just say, who interrogated DIG LAGAT. So if you go to page 4 of that Standard newspaper, it says that the chairperson and chief executive officers were part of the interrogation team. IPOA has reacted to that claim and said the following. IPOA would like to clarify that contrary to the allegations carried on page 4 of today's Standard newspaper, Eliud Lagat was not interrogated by the IPOA chairperson and chief executive officer. He was received by the technical investigation team handling the matter. Then the story goes further to say, this is consistent with the principle of safeguarding investigative integrity and maintaining a clear separation between policy formulation and operational functions within the authority. So, to cut the long story short, IPOA has realized that it's on the radar. It's on Kenya's radar. Kenyans right now don't believe in the IPOA grilling. What's going on there? I think Kenyans are hawajafurahia. So for someone like the chairperson and the chief executive officer to distance themselves from this probe, what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? So in this analysis, I want us to explore this story because this is a statement that was shared from the IPOA, whereby the chairperson and the chief executive officers have distanced themselves from that interrogation. There could be a very strong reason why that is the case. So before we go further on this analysis, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to kindly request you to support this channel by liking this video. By the way, when you like this video, that is the only YouTube shares our content, and I don't take your likes for granted. Subscribe to our channel if you are not subscribed before, and to our existing subscribers, thank you so much for your support. This controversial interrogation, and we talked about it in our previous analysis, it seems even the IPOA are confused about what to report, because you understand that details about that interrogation have not been shared. We also don't know whether that interrogation really took place, because according to the information that we got yesterday is that nobody saw Eliud Lagat walk in and walk out from the IPOA offices, but report came out that he was interrogated. What if this interrogation took place virtually? Because again, you've seen cases whereby court sessions are held virtually, via some telecommunication means. What if that is the case? Because the chairperson and chief executive officers have distanced themselves from that interrogation. What if this thing was done virtually? I am not saying it was done virtually, but what if it was done virtually? Would you call that an interrogation? Of course, that would also conform with an interrogation, because interrogation basically kuulizana maswali, it can be done virtually. Just like a court session can be held virtually. But let's move away from that narrative of a virtual interrogation. Let's focus on this issue. To be honest, hata IPOA wamechanganyikiwa on what to do. It seems the details they have, they can't release for fear of unknown factors. We don't know why they are afraid, but we can as well say that hata IPOA hii kesi inawachanganya. Should they report the facts? Because if it's true that the chairperson was not part of the interrogation, maybe it's true that they only deal with policy formulation. But when it comes to implementation, kuna the technical part that does implementation. If that is the case, I agree with the whole thing, ladies and gentlemen. But I think I'm reading malice in this whole thing. Kuna kitu hapa ambacho hakijitokezi vizuri. Kwa nini wasiseme tu basi, we were not part of it, but the report we have ni hii? Of course, I saw some reaction from the previous video we shared about that interrogation or that sermon, and someone said that whatever was recorded there is needed by the DPP, not the public. But this is a matter of national interest, and Kenyans want to know who is responsible. Of course, we've had stories coming out whereby we are told that the DIG said he indeed reported to the DCI, but the DCI ndo walimove with speed, wakamleta yule mtu na wakafanya venye walifanya. So it was, if at all that report is correct, and I'm saying is a report from the IPOA, maybe someone has leaked it like we had projected, because we extracted some information from a standard newspaper, and I shared it in my previous analysis, and in that information ilikuwa ni kwamba the DCI ndo walimove haraka haraka bila kumaliza investigation. Now, you also remember a video we shared about the NCIC's position. NCIC said the posting of Albert was not qualify kuwa in those categories. So in it, and they were saying that they regret that Albert ameenda, lakini kama angekuwa hai maybe hiyo kesi ingetupiliwa mbali, kwa sababu it was not even closer to being regarded as a hate speech, because the parameters they use to gauge that something is a hate speech, hii haikufika hata 50%. So let's get back to this storm, LAGAT storm. Nakwambia IPOA mambo ni yamechemka. Ukiona wakubwa wanajaribu kujitoa hivyo, wanajitoa because chairperson Isaac Hassan yeye ni senior pale, na ukiona anajitoa huku, huyu anajitoa, wanajitoa, unaona. Ikiwa wanajitoa inamaanisha kuna kitu pale, na hichi kitu ambacho kiko pale inamaanisha kwamba wao kujitoa vile kwa hii mambo yote ni kwamba hawataki lawama iwarudie, because already umeona ile tukio kotini kwamba mara IPOA alitumia simu kutaka pesa, mara IPOA anasema kwamba sisi hata hii simu tulipoiweka kama exhibit pale hatujawahi kuigusa, hatujaifungua, hata hii seal hatujafungua. Sasa hii simu ilitumika vipi kama ile? Kwani simu inatumia robot? You see, there were a lot of questions there. Now, but DCI is doing some investigation on that. They have around 10 days to provide a report, which is going to be provided on the 1st July of 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about this statement coming from the IPOA? You know? And let me just remind you about the statement, because IPOA reacted to a statement from the Standard. It says, IPOA would like to clarify that, contrary to the allegations carried on page 4 of today's Standard newspaper, Eliud Lagat was not interrogated by the IPOA chairperson and chief executive officer. He was received by the technical investigation team handling the matter. The statement read in part. That's what it says. So, ladies and gentlemen, just call below in the comment section and tell us what you think about this explosive revelation. So perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.